Do you ever get the feeling you're being watched? Like there's some pair of eyes out there that are tracking your every move. You turn around, but there's nothing there. Just when you think you're losing your mind, you catch movement in your peripheral vision again. The trees loomed like skeletal hands, their branches clawing at the mist. She'd walked this path 100 times.
Ho ho ho!
But tonight, something felt off. At first, she thought the crunching footsteps behind her were just the wind. Her legs burned with exhaustion, and her lungs were heavy in her chest, but she didn't care. But Sarah's body would never be found. The case went cold after a few months, but rumors persisted. There was David Wilson, a jogger who disappeared in the spring of 1983.
Ho ho ho!
And Helen Pierce, a young mother who vanished while walking home from the grocery store in the summer of 1984. Also, don't forget to follow for more creepy content. But that's not all I have to say. I also want to send a huge shout out to our supporters. Thank you so much for supporting us. A witness had seen him and identified him in a lineup. So, when he was arrested, the police brought him in for questioning.
Ho ho ho!
Finally, after 15 years, they could bring closure to the families of Sarah, Helen, Thomas, and David. They charged Ramirez with 4 counts of murder and locked him up. He was already serving a life sentence for the burglaries, but now he was going away for good. Or so everyone thought, because Ramirez would only make it 2 years in prison before he died of complications from AIDS.
Ho ho ho!
They had a hunch that he might have something to say about Sarah's disappearance, but they had no solid evidence. Just kidding, sort of. Now before we go, I have a question for you. Do you believe that Richard Ramirez was the man in the black suit? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to follow for more creepy content.
Ho ho ho!
That was until they found the diary. Apparently, Ramirez had kept a diary, a detailed account of his crimes, including the murders. In his diary he wrote about taking Sarah, about how he had followed her through the park, how he had scared her with his laughter, and then how he had taken her to a secluded spot in the woods and strangled her.
Ho ho ho!
But he didn't stop there. He wrote about the other 3 victims, 2 about how he had stalked them, attacked them, and disposed of their bodies. We couldn't do this without you. And with that being said, let's continue to creep it real. And finally, there was Thomas Riley, an elderly gentleman who took an evening stroll through the park every night before bed. That was until April of 1985, when he didn't come home.
Ho ho ho!
His family reported him missing, and the police found his glasses at the edge of the woods, just like they had found Sarah's shoes. But neither the glasses nor Mr. Riley would ever be seen again. Some said if you walk Ravenwood after midnight, you'll see him, the man in the black suit, grinning from the shadows, getting closer every time you blink.
Ho ho ho!
She had shaken off whatever or whoever was following her, and that was all that mattered. As she turned to go home, she noticed her shoes were missing. Had she lost them while running? No. They weren't lying in the grass where she'd taken off, but neatly placed at the edge of the woods as if laid down by a pair of dainty hands.
Ho ho ho!
You see, they had a lead suspect all along, a man named Richard Ramirez, who fit the description of the man in the black suit. But Ramirez had an airtight alibi for the night Sarah disappeared, and they couldn't prove otherwise. It wasn't until a decade later that the police got their chance, when Ramirez was arrested for a series of burglaries.
Ho ho ho!
They searched his house and found women's shoes hidden in the closet, the same style as the ones Sarah had been wearing the night she disappeared. But Ramirez claimed they were his girlfriend's shoes, and he'd only taken them to be repaired. The police knew Ramirez was a liar, but without any other evidence, they couldn't charge him with murder. So they let him go. Or so they thought.
Ho ho ho!
Then she saw it. Carved into the rough bark of the nearest tree was a smile, a grotesque parody of the one that had haunted her through the park. And in that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't safe. Not by a long shot. But then she turned around and saw him. A tall figure, broad-shouldered and dressed in all black, standing perfectly still beneath a flickering street lamp.
Ho ho ho!
He wasn't doing anything, just standing there. But the way he stood, the way he was dressed, it sent a chill down her spine. And when you turn back around, whatever or whoever it is has vanished. Well, that's exactly what happened one night in 1982 to a young woman named Sarah Myers. But her story didn't end with a simple, "I think I'm just losing my mind."
Ho ho ho!
No, Sarah's story ended with her life. And to this day, people still report seeing the man who took it. It was a cold October night in 1982 when Sarah Myers decided to take the shortcut home through Ravenwood Park. Sarah started walking faster, trying to put as much distance between herself and the strange man as possible. But as she rounded a bend in the path, she saw that he was closer now, much closer.
Ho ho ho!
And the sight of him standing there sent her heart racing. She could see his face underneath the dim lamplight. It was stretched into a grin, but it wasn't a friendly grin. It was too wide, too jagged like a puppet with unhinged strings. Sarah ran, her breath ragged. But no matter how fast she moved, his laughter stayed just behind her.
Ho ho ho!
Hollow, echoing sound bouncing off the trees, following her like a predator stalking its prey. She didn't know how long she ran for, but eventually the sound of his laughter faded away and she dared to slow down. The police found her shoes the next morning, still sitting at the edge of the woods. But our story doesn't end there because he didn't just take Sarah. He took 3 others after that.
Ho ho ho!
Some say the killer is still out there lurking in the shadows of Ravenwood Park, waiting for his next victim. Waiting for you. Now, before we go, I have a question for you. What do you think happened to those 4 people? Let me know in the comments. It wasn't until 1996 that the police finally caught up to our killer, or so they thought. You see, Ramirez had slipped up during that burglary.
Ho ho ho!
When the police read this diary, they knew they had their man, and that is where our story ends unless, of course, you want to hear about the creepy statue in your backyard.
Ho ho ho!